Hi, I'm making this video the same day I made my last video. It's just a little bit later, and I want to talk to you about something. Well, to get emergency heat and cooking, you can use one of these can stoves. Now, I already posted the can stove using rubbing alcohol. Now, if you're going to do that, and if you have something like denatured alcohol, I suggest you use that instead of rubbing alcohol, unless you have no other choice. Now, if you have any type of paper mask, while you're using the rubbing alcohol, if you're that close to it, then please wear the mask. But denatured alcohol burns a lot better. Now, right now, I did make another can stove. Right here, it is from a Chef Boyardee Spaghetti Meatballs can. Now, when you make your can stoves, remember these are stoves as last resorts. It is an open flame in the house. But when you make your can stove, take your roll of toilet paper, take out the center core, the cardboard, and you unwrap your toilet paper and you squeeze it around until it fits in the can. I mean, it's going to have to be really tight, and you have to force that toilet paper in that can. You want it to be all the way around the edges as much as possible. Now, the fuel I'm using for this is going to be Everclear. Now, can this help you in a situation if you need to cook or emergency heating? Now, the reason I'm saying emergency heating is because if you're using something like this and you can heat up water, so basically you go outside, grab you some snow in the biggest pan you have, bring it in the house, throw it over something like this, and you melt that water and heat it up. Now, listen to me. If you're going to do this for emergency heat, do not boil the water, because what you're going to have to do with your water is find some type of empty container, and if it's plastic, you do not want to throw boiling hot water in a plastic container. But if it's hot water, you can pour that in there, put the lid on it, and stick it underneath blankets and covers that you're sitting under, and this will produce heat because it'll be hot water. Now, like I said, I am using Everclear, and I have a pan that has a pretty good amount of water in it. I can barely move this with one hand. Now, if you're going to do something like this in the house, try being safe first. Generally, I would move all this junk from up here, and my paper towel roll would be moved. You don't want anything above it, really, that can catch on fire or burn. Now, the way I made this is, you can do this a variety of ways. Now, you see how far down the can is? If your can is too far down, what I do is I have it on a plate, stack your plates up to raise your can closer to your rack. Now, this is one of the oven racks out of my oven. Now, this is in our sink. Now, the reason it's in the sink is, one, the sink is already here, and most likely you have a sink. Two, the oven rack will fit, and it'll push against the faucet, and try to keep that rack stable. Now, I'm going to turn this fan on because, like I said in my last video, our smoke detector is really super sensitive. I mean, you can't even strike a match in here without it going off, so I apologize for the fan. Now, I'm going to put this on. I do have one of these long. Now, you can see the Everclear does burn at a lower flame. That's why you can raise it higher. Now, Everclear, even though it burns at a much lower flame than like the rubbing alcohol, but it does produce quite a bit of warmth. Now, this is ice cold. I took this out of my faucet, and like I said, if you need to raise your can up, you can stack plates if you have a pan, some type of thin pan in this stack, place on top of it. If you want to get this closer, now this is a good 3 to 4 inches easily away from the pot, and you can see it is reaching the pot. Now I could raise this up some more, but this is just a general idea of what you can do or what you need to do in a situation. If you need warmth, first thing you do is go outside with the biggest pan you got, fill that thing with snow, bring it in the house, and put it on here. Now this is not putting any type of odor out like the alcohol would, the rubbing alcohol. Drinking alcohol does not burn as quickly as just rubbing alcohol will, and you'll have a longer lasting flame on something like this because it doesn't burn out as quickly. Now this is a real expensive way to cook because you are using some type of alcohol. Now it has to have a high enough proof content to burn. This is 95% alcohol by volume. Whiskey you can use if the high enough alcohol content. My girlfriend does have some whiskey up here somewhere. I am not digging it out. There it is. You can see she really hasn't drank anything out of that. It's right there. Now this will also produce some heat. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't just set this in the bottom of the sink. Well, you do not want to burn through your drain on your sink. A lot of these connections on the drain are plastic fittings to hold the drain in place, so you want the heat to stay away from that. Like I said, I could raise that up. And this, just like the other one, if you put something over the top, it will choke this out. It'll kill it because you're depriving of oxygen. But if you need an emergency stove using a can heater, well, basically a can cook stove is what these are. These have been around a really long time, and I don't know if you can see, it's starting to get a little warm. But you can cook with them. You can heat water with them. In a real bad situation, if you have a sink and an oven and some plates and just a can and some toilet paper and something to burn in it, this will help you survive in that situation. Now, because the flame is so low compared to how I normally would have it, if I was going to be cooking with this, I would have the can probably another inch higher, maybe an inch and a half higher. This is just a demonstration to show you it is possible. Now I do feel a little bit of warmth coming out, but not much, because most of the warmth is coming out from right here where the pan is. Now it is starting to warm up a little bit. Now this is not something like a regular stove where it's concentrated heat through different flames on their stove. This is basically one big flame hitting the middle of it, so it is going to take a little while. And once again, you can raise this up so it gets more flame. Now you can see the toilet paper itself is not burning, but once this water heats up, get it good and hot, but not boiling. That's the key, not boiling. You put it in some type of container with a lid that seals, that can radiate the heat out. You're making more or less a hot water bottle, and put that under your blankets, your covers. So not only can you use this to cook with, and once again, if you're going to use to cook with, have the can higher. I just slapped this together. It only took me a couple minutes to put everything together. So once again, have it higher. Now, you can put some type of heat shield around this if you want to, but I suggest just having stuff around it that will not burn. If this was closer, I would have taken that down, but it's fine where it's at. And it is producing a little bit of warmth, especially right here where this pan is. And you can see sometimes the flames are coming over the side. I hope you can see that. Now, these stoves are for emergencies only in a really bad situation. Okay? If you have something like Everclear, I suggest you burn it instead of rubbing alcohol. Like I said, rubbing alcohol will leave a taste in your mouth of rubbing alcohol while it's burning. That is a very extreme emergency stove. Something like this, it doesn't put out so much of a scent or a taste, and it's a slower burning flame. It's a slower burning liquid. Now, it depends on how much water you have in here will determine how long it takes to warm this up. And like I said, being in this metal sink, the sink is still cold, right? And I can literally put my hand on the oven rack without any worries, because basically the flames more or less hitting this one, and maybe this one, and they're barely warm. So even if these start getting hot, as long as it's on the metal of your sink, you're doing okay, because it will never spread all the way around this big, large rack. Yeah, see, that's starting to get a little bit warmer. Like I said, it may take a little while. If it's not getting hot quick enough, you need to raise your can up. Like I said, this is a pretty good... Oh, that's probably 4 inches away from the pot. It actually should be a little bit closer, but like I said, I just threw this in here to show you what you can do with a can stove. But once this water heats up, put it in a bottle, go out and get some more snow, or bring a bunch of snow at one time in trash bags, put them in your bathtub or in a 5-gallon bucket, the snow, put it in whatever you have to put it in. And that way you can melt snow. Will this boil water? Yes. It depends on a couple of things. How close the flame is to the pan. How much water you have in your pan, or how much snow you have in your pan to melt and boil. And let's see, how close the flame is. So it depends on a couple things, but yes, this will boil water in an emergency situation. Like I said, this is for a dire emergency, but you can cook with this, especially just heating stuff up. Now you can see the toilet paper starting to burn a little bit there. That's fine. That is from the Everclear actually burning off the top. That's not going to affect the stove in any way. They're very simple to make if you have the right fuel, which right now I'm using Everclear, which I'm using the 190 proof. Like I said, once this water heated up, I can put it in a bottle, not boiling. Now, not boiling, you only boil the water if you're going to drink it, but once it's hot, I can put all that in like 1 or 2 bottles and stick it under the blankets and sit under there, and that heat will radiate out of here. It's simple to make. Remember, you don't set your can directly on the bottom of your sink. You raise it up. basically you want it as close as the pan as possible without choking out the flame. You want it to be as close to your pan that you can get it, but still have enough flame and oxygen to let your flame run. If you have a sink like this, now we have a single sink. This should also work with double sinks. You know, as long as your oven rack will fit over the sink, you should be able to do this without an issue. Alright, I'm fixing to go. I believe that's all I needed to talk about. This is an emergency stove. Now you can also use it for heating. I see some little bubbles in here. So the water is starting to warm up. You can see the nice reflective flame in there. Yeah, it's starting to warm up. Actually, it's warm, a lot warmer. I could take a shower with that. The longer you leave it on, the hotter it's going to get. So these are quick to make, simple little stoves. And that's it. I am fixing to go. If you have any questions, you know, leave it in my comments and I'll try to answer it the best I can. Once again, if you make one of these, try to get it a little bit closer to the pan. You can stack plates. Use a pan upside down, like a cake pan or something. As long as it gets enough air and has plenty of flame, that's what you need. Alright, I'm fixing to go. Everyone have a good day. Bye. Okay, I'm going to add this to the video I just made. Now, I don't know if you can see the steam coming off this. This water is definitely hot. And you can see the bubbles in there. I did let it sit on a little bit too long. This is actually really super hot. Could I put this in a container? Yes. I would definitely need some help with this because I would not want to burn myself. The water is that hot. You can see some little bubbles in there and the steam coming off. I don't know if you can still see the steam. God, I really hate this camera, this phone. If it shut off, I apologize. It looks like it may have froze. But you can see the steam. Now, since this is still burning and most of the fuel is burnt out, now the top of the toilet paper is going to get red hot and black. That's fine. The toilet paper is really not going to burn up. But because this flame is still going, I wanted to produce some heat as well. So what I did was I took my DIY foil heater here and just set it on the top. Now with the flame being that low, it's not producing a massive amount of heat, but it is producing heat. So as long as that flame is going, and especially if you're a little bit higher than this on your can, it will produce heat once you're done cooking. Especially in a bad situation, throw a DIY heater on top of it. Now if this was much closer to the rack, this is the heater I would use. But since it's so far down, I figured, you know what, I can just use this foil heater because it is putting out warmth and heat right now. And as long as that's burning, heat will get up in here and catch and then build up and release some heat. It is not a huge amount right now because the flame is so low, but it is working just like the this worked on the stove. But like I said, it's much less heat because the flame is much lower, and you can see the fuel is just burning basically out. Now even if your toilet paper on the top gets perfectly black and crisp, that's not an issue. This stove can be reused over and over and over again. The key is, once it's out, let it set, let it go out completely, and let it cool down. That's why I suggest you have 2 or 3 of these can stoves. They're simple to make, they're cheap to make. let it cool down, or switch it out with another one, and then just put in more fuel in this one or another one. And then, like I said, if this was higher, it would produce a whole lot more heat out of this heater, but it is producing heat out of the heater. You need to use every opportunity you can to, how should I put this, get warmth, any heat, cooking. Use your fuel and be smart about it. Because I'm using Everclear here. I already put it back under the sink. It's right there. And you can see I have a lot of canned stuff down there. There's the old, the one I used for the rubbing alcohol. You can see I got all kinds of, I don't know if you can see that. I have all kinds of cans and stuff down here. I have cans everywhere for making stuff like this. But you can see that will eventually burn out. Once it burns out, it's not an issue. You can still reuse it. But this is what happens to the toilet paper. When the fuel starts getting low, it will start turning the flame a different color, especially using a not rubbing alcohol, but a drinking alcohol. But it's really not burning the toilet paper. If it does, it'll just burn the top of the toilet paper, and you can still use this stove over and over again. But be smart and use whatever you can use, as long as the flame's going. Like I said, if it was higher up, it would actually work better. But I can feel warm from here without an issue. It is putting out a little warmth. So use what you can use. Don't waste anything. So always make sure, if you're using some type of fuel in the house, you don't waste it. Like I said, you can cook with this. You can heat with this. If this is all you had, and you took the oven rack out of your oven, and you raised that up, and you made a heater, a DIY heater, make sure it's raised up a little bit higher. It will put out a lot more warmth and a lot more heat if that's what you're using this for. But remember, this is not going to burn super long. It is nothing but a can with a bunch of toilet paper shoved in there, and then some type of alcohol or something that'll burn. So basically, the alcohol soaks into the toilet paper, and then when it's lit, it's drying that out of the toilet paper. Once the alcohol is completely burned out, this will go out, because your toilet paper is packed in there so tightly that it'll just extinguish itself. And you can see it barely has a flame now compared to when I started. I figured I'd show you and talk about if you use it for cooking, and this is still steaming. I don't know if you can see that, but it is still steaming. But if you're going to use it for cooking, also use it for heat once you're done cooking. Put your DIY heater on the top to catch that warmth so it can start radiating out. Even if it only puts out a little bit of heat, if you're going to let your fuel burn out and not put it out, because once again, alcohol does evaporate. It doesn't matter what type it is. But if you're going to let that burn out, make the best use of it you can and capture as much heat and warmth as you can out of it. Alright, I'm going to put this on the end of the video I just got done making, showing the pan. And these are super easy to make. They do come in handy. The stronger the alcohol, drinking alcohol, the cleaner the burn. Rubbing alcohol is a dirty burn. If you can use denatured alcohol, that is a cleaner burn, especially if you're in the house. And you can see this will just burn itself out. And once it does, I just let it cool down. I'll throw it under my sink with the other one, and when I need it, all I have to do is put more fuel in there and relight it. the toilet paper on the top burning a little bit is not going to affect this stove whatsoever. It's a nice looking flame there. Anyway, that's it. Once again, yeah, that's putting out some warmth. And normally I would have this can probably about 1.5 to 2 inches below this rack. But since I just wanted to show you what you can do with it, you know, I didn't take a lot of time doing this. This took me maybe 3-4 minutes to make the can, and less than a minute to get the oven rack out and set everything up. So at no time at all. I could have set this, like I said, on a pan upside down in the sink, but unfortunately we don't really have cake pans or anything like that. But I could have stacked more plates. Now the plate is upside down, but I could have stacked more plates to raise it up. That's not an issue as long as there are glass plates. Do not use plastic or paper on any of this. Alright, I'm fixing to go. This is the end of this video, which will be attached to the last video I made, so it's all going to be one video. But I figured I should have talked about that when I made the other video. As long as this is going, might as well capture what you can capture and get what you can get out of it. And this DIY heater here is working good. Like I said, if this was closer to the rack, or if I was using it strictly for heating, I would make that higher to the rack, a lot closer to the rack, and I would use this heater, because this can would get super hot. And if this is directly over that flame, even with water in here, this would work better than this one, because the inside of this is a smaller area. Okay, that's it. I am fixing to go. Once again, in an emergency, you can use whiskey, Everclear, something with a very strong alcohol content. The higher the proof, the better it is. But it can get expensive. But if you have something like Scotch or something like that in an alcohol cabinet, or Everclear, which I always keep Everclear on hand. It comes in handy for other things. So I keep Everclear on hand. It's good for a toothache. If you have a really bad toothache, you put Everclear in your mouth and hold it on that tooth and then spit it out, and it'll numb that toothache. For really sore muscles, if you pour some Everclear on your back and you have a sore back, it'll soak in and help with a backache. We use it for medicinal. So, but as far as burning, yes, you can see it is still burning. And you can see the can has gotten very hot at the top. And it's still putting out warmth even now with such a low flame. Okay, I apologize. Every time I put two videos together, the video seems like it's choppy and blocky, and sometimes it actually freezes, but I have a feeling that has to do with my phone. So anyway, that's it. I'm sorry this video is going to be really long once I get them together. That's all. In a DIY super bad situation, a DIY can stove, a single can, some toilet paper, if you have a sink and an oven, more the better. You can cook with it, you can heat with it. The stronger the alcohol, the slower it actually does burn. It'll burn slower. And like I said, you can reuse these cans once it's burnt out. Anyway, that's it. I'm fixing to go. Everyone have a good day. Bye.